United States Environmental Protection Agency. And I wanted to start by thanking a large number of people here, and some of them individually, for their help in bringing us here today. Citizen enforcement under the Clean Water Act is a very important part of the Clean Water Act itself, and EPA relies on citizen involvement on the tips and complaints we receive from community members to find out about violations of the Clean Water Act. It was because of a citizen complaint that EPA began investigating the Lehigh facility. So I want to acknowledge and thank community members, the city of Cupertino, and your congressional representatives who have raised environmental concerns about this cement facility. I particularly want to thank Kathy Helgeson, who phones us literally every day. Kathy, thank you. EPA is also grateful for the diligent work by the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club citizen suit in 2013 required Lehigh to meet wastewater discharge limits and spend about $10 million on restoration of Permanente Creek, and we applaud the environmental results of this settlement. I want to particularly thank Bruce Rienzo, the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter chair, and members Charles Schaefer, Kit Gordon, and Gary Bailey, and many others from that chapter that are with us today. I also want to thank the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District and the Santa Clara County for your generous help and support in preparing our event today in this beautiful open space, and for all of your work to protect this watershed. I'm also proud that EPA and our federal, state partners have accomplished to protect and restore San Francisco Bay and this watershed. We do a lot that isn't legal in nature. We give money to the state of California and to many grantees, and we also do a lot of monitoring and science to protect the Bay. I want to thank Bruce Wolfe and the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board and the California Attorney General, represented today by Brian Nelson, for your hard work on this case and for your dedication to protecting the Bay. And I also want to express my deep appreciation to John Cruden, who you'll hear from in a minute, and the Justice Department for your work to help us reach the settlement that we're going to announce today to improve and protect the water quality in Permanente Creek, which you can hear babbling behind us. So now for the what, the announcement. First of all, a little bit of background. The Clean Water Act is more than 40 years old, and the success of this act, I think, is really, without a doubt, one of the most successful pieces of environmental legislation in U.S. history, and we want to continue supporting it and making sure that it is strong, and its strength really comes through vigorous enforcement. The laws that are on the books that Congress worked so hard to enact and the President to sign are only as good as EPA, the Department of Justice, the state, and the regional board can make sure through its enforcement work. San Francisco Bay, as we all know, it's 5 miles downstream from here in Permanente Creek, is the largest estuary on the Pacific. It has one of the estuaries of national importance from an EPA perspective. We have 28 around the nation. This is certainly front and foremost among those, and is given special designation under the Clean Water Act. The Bay protects and is home to more than 500 species of fish and wildlife and millions of migratory birds. As we all know from the rising real estate values, it's also home to 7 million people and counting every day. So when we think about the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay, what we're really thinking about is what is at its heart, which is the Bay. And often we think of it as a monolith, as one big thing. We fly over it sometimes and get to see it. But the streams like Permanente Creek that feed it are its lifeblood. If that lifeblood is polluted, so is the Bay. And so much of our work at EPA has been to look at those watersheds and make sure that they are protected from pollution. Permanente Creek is a tributary that also nourishes, from a positive perspective, when it isn't being polluted. Those waters protect and enhance the Bay ecosystem. So whether it's wetlands or streams or the whole watershed, San Francisco Bay, EPA and our partners take special care when it comes to protecting it. When we hear about violations, and I really want to emphasize again the citizens' role, this is what differentiates our framework from many other countries. I just got to spend some time in other countries, and they don't have citizen suits. They don't have the ability of citizens to come forward and say, you know what, something's wrong here. We need to pursue it. So I again want to thank all the citizens that have focused on this particular creek. The reason that this settlement is of particular importance is because when we think about the pollutants, selenium and nickel, that were found here, way exceeding federal standards, those are particularly toxic to species that live in streams like Permanente Creek. Permanente Creek is home to the red-legged frog, which is a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. It's also toxic to fish and other marine life. You only need to look at the pictures of selenium harm around the bay in times gone by to know the full force of this toxic component. This agreement will find Lehigh Cement will pay $2.55 million of Clean Water Act penalty and spend more than $5 million on state-of-the-art wastewater treatment and other upgrades of their facilities. These are major facilities improvements that will both reduce selenium and other toxic metal discharges from the facility to Permanente Creek by hundreds of pounds per year. None of this would have happened if we hadn't found out about the problem. As you'll also see from this work, it also takes the inspectors that we have here today, their hard work, their diligence to monitor the pollution, to double check it. We need to make sure that when we say there's a problem, there really is. Otherwise, our friends at DOJ are not happy. So we do that work. We do it well. We do it in the field every day. And I want to thank our partners again. We're going to hear now from John Cruden. John is a legend in the environmental enforcement arena. We are incredibly lucky to have him here today. He spends most of his time in Washington, but he's getting out around the country to put a special DOJ focus on these kind of Clean Water Act issues. He's the Assistant Attorney General for Environmental Enforcement of the Department of Justice, and he's a great partner with EPA. Thank you, John.
Jared, thank you so much, and thank you for your extraordinary leadership as the regional administrator of the environmental protection area in this entire area, in this entire state. You bring such enthusiasm, such vigor, and I know that there are many people here from the Environmental Protection Agency who participated. If you look at some of the pictures, you'll see them taking water samples from the outfall that is at the heart of this case, and I salute each and every one of you for the things that you do. I'm also joined here by several of the attorneys who I work with from the Department of Justice who in fact brought this case. And it's a privilege for me to be here, not just with Jared, but with partners that we in fact work with and who I want to pay tribute to. You'll be hearing from Bruce Wolfe, the Executive Officer of the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board, and Brian Nelson, who was with me at Department of Justice for a while, but is now the General Counsel to the California Attorney General. Jared invited me to come, and I could not resist leaving cold weather in Washington, D.C. and join you. But also I lived for some years at both San Jose and Santa Clara. So this area and its water body and its ecological significance and what it means to the citizens here is a special meaning for me. And I know that there are those of you who ourselves are watching the river and in fact working to protect it. I have a college friend of mine, Greg Unex. He's working as this water now from Permanente Creek goes farther down the bay. Greg is one of those looking and working the citizen activity that Jared talked about. So what's going to happen in this case? First of all, this is a case where we actually bring a complaint, a federal complaint alleging a number of Clean Water Act violations. That's what this case is. It's a case that resolves our allegations that the permit that the Lehigh Cement Company had was violated on a number of occasions. That is our presentation. But the company, to their credit, in not litigating, is settling that case in the form of a consent decree. The consent decree is now on our website, so you can go onto the Department of Justice's website right now and get the consent decree, and we seek public comment. We ask for you, in fact, if you have things that you are interested in, you can actually send letters. You don't have to have an attorney or postcard if you want to the Department of Justice, and we consider all of that. But after that, we take that to the judge, and we ask the judge to what we call lodge the consent decree, and then it becomes the order of the court. So it's very powerful, this process that occurs after public comment. You've already heard from Jared that this is a significant civil penalty of $2.55 million, which we will actually share with the state of California because they were a partner with us in bringing this action, and you'll hear more from them. And you've also heard that there will be technology changes here in the world of Silicon Valley. It's only appropriate that some of the things that will be happening could in fact be best practices that other companies at other places in the United States take advantage of. Even before today, even before we have brought our consent decree, the facility has already made approximately a 50% reduction in selenium, which is a very, very positive thing for all of us. I told you in advance that we're doing it with the state of California. This is an important part of the fabric of the Clean Water Act. Jared has already told you that the statute is unique. It's unique because of citizens, but it's also because we can form partnerships. I've always said that the people that should care the most about polluting events are the people who are closest to that event. And that's very often the state or citizens like you all. And so we at the Department of Justice are trying to add our expertise, but at the same time honoring those places like the Regional Board and your Attorney General that are doing very positive things. And it's their permit. It's their permit that now gets enforced as part of this consent decree that sets very specific numerical limits in the future, so it's even easier for citizens to see what's happening, easier for me to enforce it. I also then want to give special attention to Sierra Club. Sierra Club brought a previous lawsuit. They also resolved that by a settlement. We were pleased with what they did. We think we add to that. We're adding what we call injunctive relief, things that the company must do to stay in compliance with the law, but we're also very much saluting again what Sierra Club did before us. The part that's important when we're enforcing a case and we draw a penalty is that it's our experience that most companies are actually taking a real strong effort to try to comply with the law, and that can be expensive. Here it'll take millions of dollars now to come into compliance with the law by treating the water better and actually moving around some of their conditions. So that's what they have to do, and that costs money. But other companies that are complying with the law, by getting a penalty and by requiring that, we're actually leveling the competitive playing field so that no company gets a competitive advantage by not complying with the law. And so that is one of the things that we are trying to accomplish here by getting the environment cleaned up, by also having what we consider to be a significant penalty. I'm going to end in this way, and the clean water is a life-giving, life-sustaining resource for all people, and I don't think there's anywhere in the country today that's more apparent than California, which is suffering from what some scientists say is the worst drought in over a millennia. The Clean Water Act was enacted over 4 decades ago because Americans of all backgrounds like you, all political beliefs, realized how critically important water is as a resource. So I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be here as a California lawyer. I'm proud to be here as an Assistant Attorney General of the Environment Division because we're working here to preserve and protect and advance for our children and grandchildren what we all know is a precious resource. Today's settlement will send a clear message that all our manufacturing facilities must meet our high environmental standards. And thank you to all of you, and thank you for all of the people that we've been working with for this great result today.
Up is Bruce Wolfe, the Executive Officer of the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Board.
Isn't this a wonderful place? It's a mix of hills, wood, streams, a prime example of why we live here in the Bay Area. And it's why we are here today. The Water Board's mission is to preserve, protect, restore, and enhance our region's waters for the benefit of all people. And what we recognize today is central to that. The quarry's been here a long time. When I was running these trails in college years, we knew when we got to the quarry it was time to turn around. Now we're working to turn around the quarry. Quarry management has not shied away from regulation. The quarry was enrolled in the statewide permit to control stormwater runoff from industrial sites in that permit's first year in 1992. However, the community brought it to our attention in 2010 that what was being discharged from the quarry was much more than just stormwater runoff. Since that time, we've worked with EPA and the local agencies to fully investigate the quarry site, to identify all sources of discharge and specify a path of action for turning the quarry around. Today's action that's announced closes the book on the quarry's past violations of its permit. It also spells out the consequences of violating the new permit the Water Board issued to the quarry last year. To date, the quarry has shown good progress towards achieving full treatment of its wastewater and controlling stormwater runoff. And we're optimistic that we'll not need to invoke the penalty measures specified in the consent decree. Nonetheless, it's imperative that the consequences of further violations be clear for all to see. In addition to overseeing its work to fully treat all wastewater and control all stormwater runoff, the Water Board is offering technical assistance on the restoration of the creek through the quarry, is continuing to investigate whether the quarry is impacting local groundwater, and working with the county on its permitting of quarry operations. The turnaround isn't complete, but we've made significant progress in restoring the water quality of Permanente Creek. Finally, I would like to recognize those members of the Water Board who are here today. John Muller, Margaret Abekoga. They have been fully supportive of board staff's investigation of the quarry and expect that all parties, the quarry, the agencies, and the community, will work together to protect and restore Permanente Creek. Thank you.
The General Counsel for Kamala Harris, the Attorney General for the great state of California. Coming up, Brian.
Join our state and federal partners here today. I am the General Counsel in the Office of Attorney General Kamala Harris, California Department of Justice, on this very bucolic day. A little windy. Especially pleased, like I said, to be here with our state and federal partners, our client, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, as well as the EPA and U.S. Justice Department, to announce this major settlement with Lehigh Cement over environmental violations. I'm particularly pleased to be here because I think what we've found in the Office of the Attorney General that co-enforcement of federal laws in particular are so important to the public health and safety of California and keeping all of our precious resources, our water and our air, clean. And the Clean Water Act is a prime example of how well we can work together, state and federal, to protect our environment. And we need as many of those examples as possible as we go forward under all sorts of legal principles to make sure that we're protecting our clean air and water. Obviously, Attorney General Kamala Harris has consistently taken action to protect California's air and water and other natural resources for the benefit of our current and future generations. Today's announcement follows other landmark enforcement actions and settlements to fight climate change, protect our communities, improve environmental health for all Californians, and hold polluters accountable. As the top cop of the state, AG Harris is drawing upon all of the tools that are available to us to preserve and restore our precious environment. This settlement, as you've heard, will significantly reduce toxic discharges into Permanente Creek and also into San Francisco Bay, the jewel of this region, and will help protect the fragile ecosystem that we're standing in right now. Protecting and improving water quality is obviously key to ensure that our communities are healthy. So again, I just want to thank our state and federal partners. This is a settlement providing $2.5 million in civil penalties and preventing future violations and discharges that I think is a model that we all can build on as a community, as a state agency, and as the federal government. And obviously together we can continue to protect the environment and the person like that. Thank you.
I have an opportunity for some questions. I want to just recognize though that John Cruden needs to leave, and so maybe if there's one question for John, he can answer that question. So a specific Department of Justice or general question, John will be able to answer, and then John has to go and get his flight back to DC.
I have a question.
Okay. John.
Excuse me. I witnessed Permanente cheating on all their environmental rules for decades, because I'm an old guy and I was young when I came here. I talked to one of your people at a meeting many years ago, and he said every time we go up there, they hold us at the gate. By the time we get in, they solve the problems. So I went up there in camo, and I witnessed them not putting water down before they ran big trucks and dust. So I'm wondering, will your inspectors have that problem in the future, or will they have a badge that will get them right in to find the offending person or activity?
So let me start again by doing what Jared did and talk about how important your role is. Your role is in communicating, tell us. There's not enough inspectors in the United States. There never will be, but we really rely on people like you. The advantage of what happens right now there is that this process it's a lengthy consent decree. It has requirements in it. It has penalties in it if you violate the consent decree. It gives access to the facility, but it becomes an order of the court. So now if the company violates any part of that, we can actually seek contempt of court. It's an order. The judge enters it as an order. So that's why what's happening is actually quite powerful in the context of what we're doing, because we don't want it to happen again, right? We want to come in, we want to do this, and then move on. We want the company to comply. We want the river to be, in fact, protected, and we want them to, in fact, comply with their permit that was coming in. But your role, another role, makes that happen, and the role again of the Sierra Club, who actually initiated the first action, that's also quite important. Others, I'll take another, and I'm going to run, please.
That $2.5 million that's going back to California, will that specifically be used for monitoring the levels of toxins in Permanente Creek?
Well, half of it comes to the federal government, half of it will go to the state. So that's a better question for them to answer what they're going to do with it. But we share that, and that's part of that partnership. So the money is coming in, which is a penalty, right? The penalty, and the penalty, by the way, is examined and designed to reduce what we think of as economic benefit. We calculate the penalty, trying to determine what financial benefit that the company get by not complying with the law. This penalty exceeds that, so that's why we were comfortable with that being the right number. But it's better the state answering than me as to what they're going to do with the money. So, matter of fact, maybe that's a good transition from me to.
Well, more appropriately, you're interested in the monitoring and ongoing efforts to ensure compliance, and we are too. And that's the ongoing effort under the Water Board's permit that spells out the monitoring that the quarry must do. We will be checking on that monitoring on a regular basis. That permit is on our website, and the monitoring program is spelled out there. We're also working with the quarry to establish a comprehensive groundwater monitoring program to make sure wells are put in appropriate spots so we can fully understand the groundwater here, which has not been done before. That will be done with our oversight and on the quarry's nickel, as it were, to implement that, and we'll be continuing to oversee that. So the penalty goes into the state's cleanup and abatement account. Historically, that account has been used for restoration projects or cleanup projects, and so we'll look for opportunities to do that in the future.
Thank you.
The 5 million, well, I want to answer one question first and then that. So in terms of access to the site, no one should be in any confusion about this. EPA has 24/7 access. We don't have to wait. We don't need to give them warning. We can go right onto the facility to do inspections, and that's true of facilities around the country. So to the extent there was a thought that we had to give prior notice, that isn't the case. In terms of what the 5 million will do, basically the majority, and there's a great picture here, for those on radio it's not going to help much, but basically the issue is, this is the quarry, this is the pond. This was commingling processed water, water that's used in the crushing operation, as well as water that fell on the site in stormwater. This was very, very contaminated with selenium and nickel. And as you can see here, this is where we did the testing at the outfall into Permanente Creek. So we were very sure that these processes were not designed in a way that would reduce the amount of pollution coming out. So the money will be spent primarily on two things. One, enhanced wastewater treatment so that the water that does come out meets federal standards, and secondly, redesign of the ponds and the way that stormwater and processed water is captured so that the water can be captured and processed by the wastewater treatment facility. So the money will go wholly to making sure that the water that enters Permanente Creek does not have violations of federal clean water standards.
Related to this quarry is a mountain of mining waste that was placed there without permission by the county. The county later grandfathered it in, and now it is leaching 6 times the allowable amount of selenium into Permanente Creek. And the county just last week decided that cleaning it up is not feasible. What are you going to do about that now that you've started this first wonderful step? Thank you.
Right. So the great thing about coming here, and I appreciate that, just as I started with our thanks to citizens for bringing to notice these issues, if there are other issues, and we get tips and complaints throughout EPA every single day, and we follow up on those. So to the extent we have inspectors here today that can follow up, and you can give more specific information about where there may be other violations, obviously we're going to take those seriously and follow up.
Sure.
Final question?
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is Barry Chen. I'm the Vice Mayor of Cupertino.
Okay.
I'm going to switch to the air quality. It's not, we're giving you the tip. I got the tip from EPA.
Yep.
EPA gives the Lehigh notice violation back in March 10.
Yeah.
This one here, okay? And in the page 3 of the notice violation, EPA say that Lehigh has been operated without the Title V permit for 20 years, since 1996. When is this going to be settled? I mean, we keep calling EPA. EPA said it's in the settlement. We cannot discuss. While the settlement continue, the pollution continue. The nitrogen oxide is over 5,000 tons. The sulfur dioxide is over 2,100 tons. I mean, in the air, we are breathing it right now. So what EPA is going to do? I mean, this.
Okay, just so for everyone. So today we're resolving a Clean Water Act violation. That's what we're here to do. The question is about other issues that are ongoing, and we did issue a notice of violation to Lehigh around Clean Air Act violations. And this isn't going to be a satisfactory answer, but we are in settlement negotiations with Lehigh on that issue. We have been. We will resolve those issues. At the moment, we can't speak to them because we're in the middle of trying to resolve those issues. But there are outstanding air issues under the Clean Air Act that we will resolve. And we probably won't meet at this exact location because we have joggers coming through. But we will resolve them. And to the extent there are other issues, those are not excused by the settlement today through the Clean Water Act. So today's an important milestone for Permanente Creek, for the San Francisco Bay, but for the residents that live nearby that have campaigned on Clean Air Act and other issues, we will continue to be vigilant and pursue those and settle those.